Right, hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, whatever it is, wherever you happen to be. My name is Paul, I'm also called Knick-Knack. I'm almost freezing cold because my legs are freezing cold, and I'm sitting in front of a webcam recording this. On a more honest note and more informative note, I'm also called Knick-Knack. I'm the brains behind Knick-Knack's Daily Teaser, which is a fun quiz. I do movie reviews when I get a chance to stop and think, and I talk about TV shows I'm watching that I think you might be interested in. At the moment, or over the past few weeks, I've been watching the Doctor Who classic serial, The Underwater Menace, and frankly, I'm struggling with the word camp, and possibly a lot of other words as well. At any rate, it's the 19th of February. Last night I saw episode 3, tonight is the 19th, and I wanted to tell you what I thought of the episode. Episode 3 of The Underwater Menace opens by recapping last week's cliffhanger, showing us that King Thoas, Noel Johnson, has had the Doctor and Ramo, Patrick Troughton and Tom Watson, captured or taken away by the evil Professor Zaroff, played by Joseph Thirst. Zaroff orders his guards to take the two captives back to the Temple of Amdo, whilst he, Zaroff, stays to explain to the king how his plan is going to raise Atlantis to the surface of the sea, rather than destroying the whole damn planet in a huge, great fizzy pop. At the temple, the Doctor and Ramo are having a bad afternoon as they're taken to be sacrificed with headsman's blocks and very large choppers. The one time the Doctor could do with a miracle is the one time that, funnily enough, for some strange reason, a miracle actually happens. As the statue of Amno tells the priests in the temple to bow down before her and only look up once the prisoners have escaped. Sorry, once she tells them to. Miracles have a funny habit of turning up when you need them. Now, what did I make of this episode? What did I make of episode 3 of The Underwater Menace? And what exactly does the word camp mean in context? Let's do that second question first, because I've got to admit, even after all this time, I still have no bloody idea, beyond a very, very basic understanding that it means over the top. No one's actually ever given me a good definition that sinks in. So, personally, if you've got one, I'd like to hear it. And equally as personally, I always thought the Flash Gordon series of the 1930s would count. Buster Crabbe's outfits certainly would. I don't know who was camper, him or Liberace. At any rate, their camp, as is Professor Carol Zaroff's cry at the end of this episode. That cry of, "Nothing in the world can stop me now!" It's just ever so slightly overdone, isn't it? The episode itself, however, is another well played, well done episode. It moves the story forward. It makes good, if slightly camp, use of its characters. And it's rather well rounded. There's one minor plot point that caught my attention. The miners, Sean and Jaffa, managed to persuade the fish people of Atlantis, the Atlantean slave caste, if you will, to go on strike. And a message, once the fish people understand that's what the miners want them to do, the message is conveyed by one of the fish slaves to the rest of them by way of a sort of an underwater dance. And it has to be said, looking at the live action version of episode 3, the live action version of this scene, to compare it to the animated one looks a lot better. It's much less reliant on piano wires for a start, and the costume, the look of the fish people in the cartoon is a lot better than what the real world costumers managed to do. The fish people in the live action version are basically wearing leotards with sequins. The fish people look, in the cartoon version, much more alien, much more fishy, much more convincing. I can only assume that the animated version has a better budget. or at least took a chance on redesigning the damn fish people. For they are, let's be honest, one of the show's ropier creatures. The cartoon version of them works quite well, I think. One thing that didn't particularly impress me, and it's something I've noted before, is that some of the dialogue was a bit iffy. Most of Polly's is understandable, but some of it in parts is, again, muffled, as is some of Ben's. I am not blaming sound restorer Mark Ayres for that, or for any flaw in the dialogue. I know he has to work with what he's got. I just don't think he necessarily had the best audio sources for the Underwater Menace. I've mentioned it before, you probably noticed it. Go have a look at my 2 earlier reviews of the first 2 parts. Talking of dialogue, I think, scrub that out, reverse it. I know the animators have made something of a mistake or two in this episode. At the 14 minutes and 34 seconds to 14 minutes and 38 seconds mark, we hear Ben say, "What's so funny?" But we see Jamie's mouth saying the line, and then a second or two later we hear Jamie saying, "Hey, what?" but see Ben saying the line. They've got the 2 characters' lines swapped round, basically.
What's so funny? Hey, what?
Ben saying Jamie's line in Jamie's voice, Jamie is saying Ben's line in Ben's voice. And it's something that happens a few seconds later as well. It's at the 15:30 to 15:34 mark, after Zaroff has faked a seizure. Both of these flaws, these wrong bits of dialogue, are in both the colour and the black and white editions of the piece. The wrong voices are coming out of the wrong faces, and I'm assuming the flaw is in the master tapes that both versions are made from. Or at least that's what I'm assuming. I don't know for sure. If you've got half an idea, please leave me a comment underneath this video. But to be honest with you, I'm not actually worried particularly. I've seen it, I've noticed it, it's the sort of thing I do notice, but it's a lot like flawed stamps or flawed coins, or possibly, if you've seen my reviews, it's a bit like Mr. Perry's wandering buttonhole in The Evil of the Daleks. Way back when I reviewed that, it was something I noticed, that the flower he had in his buttonhole was over here for most of the series, but occasionally cropped up over here, on this side, instead of this side. They are minor but noticeable flaws, and it's the sort that are, for most of us, are going to be insignificant, but it's the sort of things that on stamps and coins will add to the value of the piece for collectors. The famous example I can think of here is the Adultery Bible, a misprinted version of the Bible that said, "Thou shalt commit adultery," rather than "Thou shalt not commit adultery." Apparently there's only 3 copies of this one Bible left, and they go for a fortune. But that's the sort of thing this is. It's a minor, noticeable flaw that adds a bit of extra value, but it's mostly insignificant for most of us. I say most of us. For me, it's added to the entertainment factor. Ew, I've spotted that. What can I tell you? At any rate, did those flaws, did those problems spoil my viewing of this 3rd episode? No, they haven't. Quite frankly, the muffled dialogue is dealable with, either by pressing rewind and playing it again, or switching on the subtitles, or just by paying attention, or just even turning the volume up or down. It's dealable with. The flaws are actually quite a fun thing to try spotting. If you're the sort of fan keeping an eye open for this sort of misprinted stamp, you're going to love seeing this, or love noticing other things in earlier or later episodes. I know I certainly did. I saw it float past, I spotted it, immediately took a load of notes, and of course I'm telling you about it today, the day after I've spotted a flaw. It's a fun thing to try and spot, much like that stormtrooper in Star Wars. Am I going to be watching the fourth episode? Yes, I am, and you can bet your proverbial rear that I want to see this fourth episode next week and see if there's any cock-ups in it as well. I will be watching that last part of the story on Sunday the 25th of February, next Sunday, and I will be putting my written and video reviews up on the 26th. I will see you then, and until then, take care, be good, and to quote Patrick McGowan, be seeing you.